Welcome back, humor consumers, to the Life Happens, Laugh Anyway podcast. I'm comedian Tracy DeGraaf.
And I'm Cathrine, co-host and bestie.
Good afternoon, Cathrine.
Good afternoon, Tracy.
Here we are at the Pod Lab.
Right, and you said welcome back, and we're kind of saying that to each other, too, because this is our third take, I think, for this episode.
Yeah, the episode today, friends, it's episode number 117, and it's a very fair warning and just full disclosure as well. This is not an content that one would want to have small children listening to. We're going to be discussing some sensitive topics, and even potentially adults might find uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. So if it's kind of like a trigger warning, you know, if you've been through an abusive situation and you'd rather not even go there, we're going to be talking about Jared, the subway guy, and he you know, the sins that he committed. Mm-hmm. I mean, he is in jail, and we're going to be going over that. We watched the documentary that is called Jared from Subway Catching a Monster. So that's the topic.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to say, you know.
Mm-hmm. And hopefully you saw the title when you decided to click on it too, because it does say, it will say Jared, the subway sinner.
Yeah. And most people know the story about Jared and what happened with him, but it does have to do with pedophilia. Mm-hmm. And if that's a triggering situation for you, we want to protect you, because I cannot imagine how difficult it is for victims of this type of a crime and sin. Very difficult. Very sorry that it even exists. Yeah. What we're going to cover today, friends, is, because I know I don't sound very fun or funny, and it's not meant to be for this one, you know. Mm-hmm. But if you're joining us for the first time, welcome aboard to the Life Happens, Laugh Anyway podcast. As I said in the intro, I'm a comedian, and my best friend Cathrine and I do this podcast, and we take a topic that we think you'll care about, and we do our best to present the information in an entertaining way. However, with today's topic, that's not really possible. So we're just going to present the information because we think it's important. We think it's important for awareness and for just acknowledgement that this kind of stuff is out there.
Yeah, we're going to talk about spiritual warfare.
Yes.
And how we can better prepare for that in prayer.
Yeah. And we have a call to action at the end, so stay tuned for that, because we are not without hope, friends.
Yeah.
We are not. This podcast has sponsors, and tell our listeners about our sponsors.
Our sponsors help us to move this ministry, this podcast forward by supporting us $5 a week or a month.
A month, yep.
And we want to get new microphones. We've got a lot to learn yet, and some of those things cost money. So the support carries this mission
forward.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you'd like to become a sponsor, we call them humor contributors because they contribute to our mission. You can go to the show notes or to patreon.com, where we have a Patreon page set up. And I'm going to tell you the names of our current sponsors, since there's 11 of them. So they're not that many, so I can say it. Ursula, Nancy, Kenny, Karen, Janine, Ron, Muffin. He even put Muffin in the name when he signed up. Darlene, Courtney, Joan, Carla, and Gail. And we thank you for your support. And we are saving up those dollars, the $5 that we get per month, to replace these microphones that we currently have with better microphones. And we're also going to replace these little arms that come out that the microphone hangs on.
It's like literally like a boom.
It is. And we'd like to get a sign that goes on the wall that says Life Happens, Laugh Anyway. As we are recording on video. We're trying this, friends. We're doing our best to get video out to our patrons. Yeah. So we are recording it on video, but we'd like to spruce up. There's still shadows and we're working on it.
Yeah, it's a work in progress.
It is. So thank you to our patrons. And if you'd like to become one, see the show notes or go to patreon.com and look for Life Happens, Laugh Anyway. All right. Well, let's get into it. We've got a couple takeaways. One, we're going to talk about who is Jared Fogle, the subway guy. Who is it? Who is he, this guy? And then what's his story? What happened? And the third takeaway is, we're going to call it what it is.
Yeah.
And it really is pure evil.
Yeah.
And how do we respond to that? So who's Jared Fogle, Cathrine?
Well, he is just a guy from the Midwest, regular young guy that
from Indiana.
From Indiana,
Mm-hmm.
right? And he basically was just overweight his whole life. And then one day he decided that he was going to lose that weight, and he was just college age. And he did lose the weight by walking to a Subway across from his college campus. And he just had Subway sandwiches from then on. And he made this known. It was picked up in the school paper. And then it made it to Men's Health magazine. And then Subway got a hold of that. And then he became the most famous spokesperson ever. Even more than that Empire guy. I was thinking about that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, anyway, and but then he had a big downfall. But again, he was the spokesperson for Subway. And he was not just here in the States. It was around the world.
Yeah, well, Subway's a pretty big organization.
Yeah.
And they just sucked him into their system, and they were like, this is our guy. He's sort of an everyday kind of looking guy, very normal, very average in terms of he's unassuming. He's not intimidating to look at. He's just looks like a normal guy.
And he was very believable because, you can have superstars as your spokesperson, but who better to hear from than somebody who is relatable? This was like the boy next door. He was very likable. He was, again, like Tracy said, unassuming, and believable is the key.
Not only that, but he achieved a remarkable achievement.
Mm-hmm.
Now, his weight problem that he had from youth, from when he was young, there were more layers to it. There had to be. I mean, I don't remember if the documentary said that he suffered with depression, but I would imagine that he was addicted to, they said that he was addicted to video gaming. He was that was his comfort. That was his zone where he felt whatever he felt.
Accepted and so forth, because he was bullied at school, but I'm not certain if it was what came first, the bullying and then the addiction to the video games and the weight gain and all of that, or was he picked on because of the weight? I don't know.
Either way, I was thinking about this because he obviously exhibited an addiction to food. Because he was consuming, the report said that he was consuming 10,000 calories a day.
Yeah.
And he was drinking multiple sugary sodas every day.
15 to 17.
So he was addicted to sugar. He had a food addiction. He had impulse control issues. He could not control his impulses.
Exactly.
So he had an addictive tendency or behavior or whatever when it came to food. And I believe that also transferred over into his video gaming. So he had those two areas of his life were out of control.
Right.
He was completely addicted and it was out of control. Well, what happened? Well, tell our friends about the car situation that kind of was his wake-up call.
He was so overweight that he was sleeping a lot. He was falling asleep in class, and he couldn't really do too many things because he didn't have energy. One day he was driving to school, and he crashed the car because he had either fallen completely asleep or nodded off, whichever, and he crashed. And that was the turning point for him, where he decided he was going to lose weight. And also, I had heard on another report that his father was a doctor and his mother was a teacher. And his father did, get after him for his habits, the eating and so forth, and his weight. Yeah. So finally, Jared decides to go ahead and do that. And he accomplishes it.
He did.
People noticed. People didn't even recognize him. And, in this documentary, there was a gal that had said it would have been, when they were in school, this is before college, that it would have been social suicide if one were to sit with him.
Yeah.
And so this is how ostracized he was. And this
Yeah.
just kind of paints a picture of what he overcame.
And when in the documentary, and the name of the documentary, Jared from Subway Catching a Monster, in that documentary, when I saw his schoolmate interviewed, I felt deep compassion for this young man.
Yeah.
I felt sadness because I hate to see anybody teased or ridiculed or put down for any reason. I mean, it's just sad to me.
Yeah.
That's not to say that I have any compassion for him right now.
No.
Because of what he did and his behavior. He deserves everything that he's gotten and more.
Yeah.
He does.
Right. Yeah, just because we feel bad for someone's past or what happened to them,
Right.
It doesn't equate feeling that they should be off the hook and not held accountable
Right.
for what they've done.
So here's Jared Fogle. He's this young man brought up in the Midwest in Indiana. He's in a nice home, a nice, comfortable environment.
Real nice
stable
home.
parents. He's got siblings. He goes to school, but he's got these two addictions, the food and the video games.
Yeah.
And then he loses the weight, and he's in college now, and he loses the weight, and all of a sudden he gets this crazy amount of attention.
That's right. Crazy amount of attention, and even scarier, a crazy amount of money.
Hello.
Because he does one commercial with Subway and it took off. It did very well. And then Subway said, we're going to sign you on for $1.1 million per year, I think it was.
Crazy.
And which comes out to $91,000 per month. That this man of 22 years old was now getting. So you take somebody like that addictive personality, first of all. Now, we're no psychologists, but anyone can see that he went from one addiction to another when you know the story.
Right.
Okay. So anybody, I mean, there are people who, he was well educated too, I was about to say, who come into a lot of money and they can't handle it. Now imagine somebody with an addictive personality and all this access. So speaking of access, they want him to be a spokesperson for Subway. And also now he forms this, the Jared Foundation. And that is to educate and encourage the youth to be healthy and have good health habits and eat right and all of those good things. So he goes around the nation and eventually the world to do this, which gives him access to young people. And the Jared Foundation really was just a front. I don't know if in the beginning they paid out with it, but it basically allowed him to not have to pay taxes. He and this other guy named Russell Taylor, they forged this so-called friendship and became business partners. Jared put him as the director or the guy in charge of this foundation. And they just bled the money. There was $75,000, I believe, that they spent per year, and 60% of that was this Russell's salary. And I think a quarter of it was never accounted for. They have no idea. But so all that to say, the money did not go for the children.
Right.
It didn't go to them. Also, they didn't even pay the mere simple $5 a month to the state of Indiana for
like registering as a nonprofit.
Yes, right, exactly. So they didn't even do that. And this was just like a veil for the dark, seedy things they were doing, because this Russell guy was just as bad, if not worse, in what he was doing. He was
sexually perverted, and I don't know what the other term is for it. Like, he was just demented sexually. Like,
as was Jared.
Yeah.
We just, neither one of us really want to say what it was.
Okay.
You can look it up yourself.
Okay, but here's the thing too, and I don't remember if they mentioned this in the documentary because it's been now a few days since I've watched it. But if he's addicted as a young man and he's in his room a lot and he's on the computer a lot and he has no impulse control, what do you suppose his private viewing habits on the computer may have involved?
Right.
And so if he was consuming pornography and he had no impulse control and he just kept going deeper and further and exploring and engaging, I have a sense that really could lead to a lot of dangerous activity.
Absolutely. And it did.
It certainly did. Now, do you remember them saying anything about them finding, I don't think they said that he had like a history of porn addiction.
Well, he absolutely was looking at it because that's how they first, so the feds come down on this Russell first, Russell Taylor, and they find the link from Russell Taylor's connection to Jared, and that Jared was guilty because of what Russell sent him. Now, all this time, there was this radio host / journalist that was trying to entrap Jared. And because the very first time she met him, they were supposed to do an interview over the radio for, what Jared was doing. And this was early on. And right before the cameras went on, because now it's a camera thing, it's not the radio anymore, and they're about to turn the cameras on for this thing with the middle school students. And Jared leans over to her and says in her ear, "I think that middle school girls are hot." And she was immediately, the red flags went off, and she was immediately turned off by that. And so she makes it her mission to get what she can out of him through conversations and bring it to the feds, which she did. The feds never used it in the end. She had, I think I can say this, damning evidence against him. And they never did use that. In fact, it took them 5 years to actually make a move. And as I said, it actually comes down on this Russell first.
Okay, so back up for a second, because what you're saying is that in answer to my question about the pornography, you're saying, well, yeah, there was evidence that he was involved in it. He was deep in it because that's why he's sitting in jail, because of his relationship with Russell.
Right.
Russell was creating it and also distributing it.
Right.
And he was doing both of those things for Jared. Jared kept him on the payroll. Jared bought him a house. Jared actually forced this man to call him daddy.
Oh, really?
That's how sick this man
Ew, I didn't know that.
is. Yeah.
Oh.
So the depth of the sickness in this relationship was really pretty bad. It's such a shame, though, that they couldn't go back into Jared's computers and look at, like, what causes this? Because when it comes to a pedophile, I do wonder where's the crossover? Like, what happens?
I just saw something about that yesterday.
What the world?
Well, I think that even, and I think anybody would agree with this, anytime you have any kind of thought or desire, if you feed it by looking at it
so true
more and more, and you're thinking about it,
so true,
every single time you got to go to the next level, it's probably never satisfying. I mean,
I'm looking up a verse.
Oh, yes. Go ahead. You do that.
I'm going to look it up.
But yes, back to the link between this Russell Taylor and him. It absolutely was. It was porn. It was very sick because it was not only human beings. Let's put it that way. That's how.
Wait, hold on.
Uh-oh.
So I was telling Ron about this case, and he was actually watching it, but he was zoning in and out.
Yeah.
And this Russell and his wife, they were into horses.
Oh, I thought we weren't going to say.
Well,
but okay.
Okay, wait a minute. So Ron says, he goes, and the horse said, "Nay."
Oh.
Nay.
No, the horse said no.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Mr. Jared.
Oh, I mean, I just can't even imagine,
Oh, no. Okay. Don't even try.
Okay, so wait, let me get to the word. Here we are. It's Galatians chapters 5 and 6. I know that these two chapters are really good when they talk about just really a transformed life. So in Galatians chapter 5, it talks about life by the Spirit. Okay. And it goes into it in verse 16. So this is Galatians chapter 5, verse 16. So I say, walk by the Spirit, and you will not gratify the desires of the flesh.
Yes, right.
For the flesh desires what is contrary to the Spirit, and the Spirit what is contrary to the flesh. They are in conflict with one another, so that you are not to do whatever you want. But if you are led by the Spirit, you are not under the law.
There you have it.
And it was obvious through this story that none of these characters in the story were walking by the Spirit.
Right.
They were...
Well, not by the Holy Spirit.
No. They were deep into
darkness.
Evil.
Yeah.
Pure evil.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's no doubt about that.
Pure evil. Okay.
Bad.
All right, so now we've got Rochelle is introduced to the story, and she's the reporter. She's a radio host as well as a TV host, and now she's done this interview with Jared, and he has whispered this disgusting thing in her ear.
Right.
And now what does she do with that? She goes to the authorities.
Yeah, the
and
FBI. Mm-hmm.
She's like, "Hey, over here,
you've got yourself a pervert, a bona fide pervert. I'm telling you." And they say, "Yeah, no, that's not enough evidence." So here's what, when we recorded this before, what we don't understand is how much evidence do you need to get a warrant?
Yes.
We understand you don't have enough physical evidence. We'll go get it.
Right.
Here she presented him saying, I like this and I like that. And it was damning. It was bad. And he even says, oh yeah, I like to go to Taiwan. Is it Taiwan?
Yeah, it was
Indonesia?
Taiwan. No, it was Taiwan.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where it's more accepted. That's what he said.
Right.
He said,
Tracy's face.
He goes, it's more acceptable over there.
Yeah, in Indonesia. They go there. Anyway, he's saying this, and she's got him
on tape
saying that. He also says to her, hey, how about your kids? Let's see your little ones.
Oh.
And still, they don't use it. Now, at some point, they do say, okay, we're going to mic you. But they still don't go in and do anything. Okay?
That's a real problem that I have with this whole story, because she kept this going. She kept this connection with Jared and this friendship going for over 5 years. That's a lot of time.
That is a lot of time for the feds.
You can't figure it out within that period of time.
And not only that, then what are you there for?
Right. I mean,
how much do you need?
I got to say, Rochelle, good on you that you did it. I don't think I could have done it.
No, because she, it would put a strain on her. She was a single mom. It put a strain on her relationship with her kids, especially her daughter. And she went through a lot to get this man. She was sickened by him.
Exactly. Her psyche and her mental health was at risk.
Yes.
And I cannot believe that the FBI would let this go on that long.
Especially when we're talking about kids here. Do you know that YouTube puts all this stuff out that they allow, but they will not allow anything that's about kids? I don't know to the depth, but here we are with this, and the feds don't even do anything when they hear these alarming things about what's happening to children. Even YouTube's got some morals. I don't get it.
So whatever happened there, I hope that they've all straightened it out by now. And who knows, maybe there's some little bit of the story that they didn't share on the documentary.
Possibly, but
maybe there was some legal loophole or something. Like if we were FBI agents, we'd be yeah, duh, Tracy and Cathrine. No kidding, we can't do it.
Well, okay, that may be, but the FBI won't even take a stance on it. Like they're silent about it.
Yeah, there's a problem.
Right. And they don't even use her evidence in the end. What they did use, they got this tip. How did they get the tip on this Russell Taylor? It was...
I don't remember.
Well, okay. Well, in between all of this, there's another woman who has a relationship. So Jared also, he steps out on his 2 marriages.
No impulse control.
Right. And he also at some point has an ex-girlfriend. Now, this ex-girlfriend, well, he has several, but there's one that is a Subway franchise owner. She goes to Subway and she says, hey, I've got suspicions and I'm pretty sure that this is what this Jared is doing. And they turn their heads. And I think their excuse was, well, it's separate from us. That's a franchise.
Yeah.
And so they just somehow they just came up some goopity-ga that separated them from that.
They basically did one of those. You know,
they washed their hands of it.
It's not on me.
Right. And there was this other ex-girlfriend who was also placating him. Oh no, I don't want to get that wrong. Playing with
please stop.
Gosh. Ugh. Anyway, and she gets evidence and she brings it to some authorities of some sort, and she ends up in jail. And I can't remember the twist onto how absurd, like how that came to be. I don't even know. But it was really, so I was going to say something else. But
I remember when this first hit the news, and I remember hearing about this man who was in charge of the Jared Foundation had been arrested for inappropriate sexual activity or behavior or whatever. And I thought, oh, poor Jared. Jared.
I bet a lot of people thought that because he was so likable
and innocent looking, and he came out with his big giant pants that he used to wear, Well,
the thing is
he was on Oprah.
Right. For so long, so many people rooted for him. So many people were Team Jared.
Yeah.
Because he defied all, possibility. Well, not all possibilities, but he did this great thing. He was, like we said earlier, very likable, believable, and it was really hard to imagine him doing the things that he was being accused of.
Yeah.
It's hard to imagine.
But it wasn't long before, they got a hold of the computer and they could see what they could see in there. And then it was revealed that it was Jared who was really deep in this stuff too. So,
well, he was the one that spearheaded it, even though this Russell Taylor did what he did, which was awful because he was doing, spying on the stepdaughters as well. But it was Jared that had all the power and lorded over him in regards to his salary, his house, and all. Horrible. No excuses though, because you.
All of
couldn't
it was
buy me
horrible.
Like that. Right.
No, all of it was horrible.
Yeah.
What this man and his wife, what the wife did to her own daughters.
Oh, I know. I think she's worse than the two of them together.
Yeah, she is.
How could you do that to your own flesh and blood? And she claimed to be a Christian,
and she was her daughters were interviewed on this documentary, and they said that she just flipped. Like, she flipped out.
Yeah, she went from going to church, being involved in church, and leading this life to now she meets Russell Taylor, and not only is she drinking, but she's giving her preteen daughters alcohol.
Yeah, and partying.
And then it just goes to show, just because you go to church and you are involved in church, it does not mean that you're rooted in your faith.
No, or common sense.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, for those girls, they were cheated out of the innocence of their childhood, but they have grown to become, strong young ladies who are taking back their own power, if you want to call it that, or they're not afraid to confront the truth.
Yeah.
And they are putting the truth out there, and one of them now is a mom. And so we wish them well. We wish them the best of everything, because they can never go back and reclaim that time or undo what's been done.
Right.
And this Jared, how many years did he get?
He only got, now I've heard 12 and I've heard 15. I've heard both, but it's still not enough for the amount, as many victims as he had. Known victims, right?
He had many more.
Oh, yeah. Sure. Well, they're not, the ones in Taiwan and in Indonesia and all that, that's not even accounted for.
Yeah. I watched a video of a man who had been in prison for jewelry theft. And he was in prison for jewelry theft for the same amount of time that Jared has been indicted for. And this man said that his own mom said to him, "You deserved this time because you committed a crime." But why is it that child molesters get less time than
is it?
I don't understand.
Well, in Jared's case, I'll bet it's got to do with money for a good lawyer.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, probably.
Well, it's a shame. It's a shame because it really, although, I don't know if his behavior could have been curbed. I think that it is just a blessing that this stuff happened where Russell was caught, because apparently the FBI was not stepping in. If they had not stepped in 5 years of working with Rochelle and getting all of this, I thought it was evidence, is to hear him talk. You can listen to these tapes on this documentary and you hear him talk. He has done this many times. He's got his own little system of how he does the grooming and all of that. And he makes it sound like it's totally acceptable.
Absolutely. And again, even if they didn't have enough physical evidence, they absolutely had enough suspicion and they had enough evidence to get a warrant to check it out.
To look at his computer.
Absolutely.
Because there's no way that his
I'm an
computer
expert,
didn't
but I do know. I watch enough crime to know that.
It seems like there should be more protections in place, especially for the most vulnerable in our society. And I can't think of anything more vulnerable than being a child.
That's right.
Who is in the care of these idiot parents who are saying, oh, yeah, sure, put cameras in my kid's room.
Yeah. Oh.
No.
Okay, now, get this. Now, once it's all said and done, almost done, and Jared is sentenced, he admits to his wrongdoing and he claims he's sorry. Well, that was then. That's at the sentencing. When
he did a plea. He did a plea.
Yes, he did. But he's nonetheless, this is what he said, that he was sorry. He was guilty. Okay. Well, then after that, I don't know how long after that, he appeals because, get this, he said the judge was a woman. Okay. She was prejudiced against pedophiles.
Oh,
what?
Yeah.
Duh. Aren't we all prejudiced against pedophiles? Shouldn't we all be? And because she had 2 daughters, or 2 children anyway, the same age as
some of his victims.
Yeah, the ones he targeted. That made her, prejudiced, biased.
And was that appeal tossed out?
Well, I don't know because I didn't. Yeah.
Please say it was.
Right. Yeah. And then he says too, that because the judge had 2 daughters the same age as what he admitted to fantasizing about, that's not a crime, he says.
Fantasizing?
About,
It's not a crime? Well, acting on it is, and he did.
That's exactly right.
See,
okay, that's exactly right.
Here's the thing. The fact that he even brought that to the table, or maybe it was just his lawyer or whatever, that just shows you there's no rehabilitation here.
Right.
He wrote a letter just a few years ago to a reporter, and he basically said, I really screwed up.
Yeah.
What?
I screwed up.
I really
That's
screwed up.
That's like saying, I lost my girlfriend because I did a bad thing.
Yeah.
But no. This is more than just screwing up.
Right. This is something that he should be really concerned about.
Yeah.
Like I hope that somebody that's close in his life is saying, look, Jared, you need help. And the prison system isn't going to, this guy who was in jail for this jewelry theft, he said that Jared is in a prison where there aren't like the type of criminals that would take care of pedophiles. He's at a different type of prison, which is where they normally put them because they're not considered violent, and they know they'll just be killed if they go to a penitentiary.
Yeah. Right.
And he said guys like that don't last 10 minutes in the penitentiary.
Yeah, I've heard that many times.
And, and this guy who was talking, I'm not saying that, he's an authority on this case, but he's been to prison. He's a human being and he's got common sense, in terms, and he was also talking about just the vulnerability of children and how it's just,
we live in such a weird world where the thief is actually, like the good guy compared to
it is crazy. Yeah. And, in the letter that Jared wrote to this reporter, he said, I spend my weekends watching football and it really makes the weekends fly by.
Yeah. He goes, I.
Yeah.
No, I don't really cook. There was a rumor going around that he cooks in the jail. No, we really don't get to do that, especially since COVID. I this and I that. And then he does go into a little bit of, I wouldn't even call it remorse. It's definitely not
it's
repentance.
Still about him.
It's still right.
He's saying, I screwed up to end up here. Okay, here, how about this, Jared? You were given on a silver platter a dream come true for most people. Most people, couldn't make that kind of money in a lifetime.
Yeah.
And you made it. He was their spokesperson for many years, like 15 years or something like that. You had a wife. You had children.
2 wives.
Not at the same time, though, right?
No,
Okay,
not at the
good.
same
I was
time.
like, gosh, we can't add another layer to this story.
Yeah.
He had it all.
Yeah.
But at the root of it, there was the evil. And there was the addiction. And there was the no control. He had no self-control.
Yeah.
And then he started justifying his behavior by saying the children liked it. They liked it. They enjoy it. Gosh. That's just, to me.
I don't know that I heard that.
Yeah. On the tape, Rochelle asked him and said, well, how do you get them to do it? And he just said, you just keep on, what were the words that he used? Something about touching and feeling, and you just do a little touchy-feely, and then you back off. It's total grooming. And he says they like it. You give them a feeling that they like, and you just keep on moving.
He's sick.
He is absolutely depraved. He is depraved. And is there hope for him? There is hope, but only in Christ. You got to get yourself totally free from that. And honestly, I don't know that he can be
totally rehabilitated.
I don't know that he can be. So, I mean, I know they put these guys like on a registry and stuff. I don't know that is enough, or that really protects children. But I mean,
I don't know either, because since he was a child, he had an addictive personality. So I don't know. But on a side note too is that he was born in like 79 or 78, something like that.
Yeah.
So that is, I mean, you just didn't hear about people being addicted to video games back then. Now, in the 90s and early 2000s, definitely. But before, it was just like
Pong.
Like Frogger.
Yeah, he was sitting there
doink, 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 and asteroids.
Well,
But
maybe because his dad was a doctor, and I'm assuming that because his dad was a doctor, mom was a teacher, that they had more money than the average, family. I don't know. Maybe
I don't know either,
had,
because lots of people had video games.
but I mean, growing up, I was born in 65, so I remember Pac-Man and Mrs. Pac-Man and asteroids and Galaxy, whatever it was called.
Nintendo later came,
Yeah, so maybe it wasn't as sophisticated as it is now, but if one has a propensity toward this addictiveness, let's call it, they just find their groove and that's it. They just keep digging. Yeah. To me, it would be so boring.
Well, right.
I would be like, I'm bored.
Yeah, I mean, I remember
extremely
just
bored.
playing it for so long, and then, I couldn't stand it anymore. I wanted to go out and play.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I don't know.
But now, let's talk about what a spiritual warfare it is, which we touched on that. But it's absolutely a spiritual warfare going on around us ever since the fall of man.
It is.
And it's the Lord's battle. We have to do our part. And that is by, being obedient.
Hold on a second.
And what's
Hold on.
up?
Keep talking.
Okay. Tracy all of a sudden is grabbing something. I don't know what. But
I have to just double check something.
definitely it's a spiritual warfare. And do you have PT? Is that what it is?
Making sure.
Okay.
What is today?
Today is Monday, the 27th.
Ooh, I'm supposed to meet Olivia at 2:00.
Uh-oh.
Time
Okay.
is
It is 2:00. We can wrap it up.
Yeah, well, let's
Okay, let's wrap it up. All right. We'll do our scripture. It's from Ephesians 6:12.
Sorry, if Olivia's listening, I'm going to call you in a second and I'll be right there. Okay, Ephesians
6:12.
6:12.
And I don't have it up, but I know that
It says, "For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms."
See, that's exactly what I was just saying.
All right, friends. Well,
Okay.
that's a wrap.
That's a wrap. Call to action is pray against it. Pray April 1st.
Yes, April 1st. Tune in to Tracy's prayer team on Facebook. I did this during the pandemic, At 6:30 every evening, we had just a short, brief devotional, and we prayed.
Yeah.
And we're going to start again April 1st, and just join me.
Okay.
So we'll see you then.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.